Hi, my name is McKenzieKuyper, and welcome to Hotel Belladonna. So, has anyone here been to Universal Studios Hollywood? Okay. Well, for those of you who haven't, it's a theme park with rides, shows, stores, worlds entirely dedicated to films and TV shows by Universal Studios. So I actually went there over winter break. I went with my family, and my siblings and I were very excited about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And my dad loves action movies, and he loves the studio tour, and that's like something from his childhood, so we always have to go on the studio tour. But I realized at the end of my trip that there wasn't really anything that my mom was super excited about. She was just kind of chilling, going with us on the rides that we wanted to go on, but there's nothing really that she loved and wanted to ride or see. And so I kind of like took this problem and I like mulled it over for a few days, and I'm like, why is that so? Like, why is there nothing here at Universal Studios Hollywood, a theme park for the whole family, but there's nothing for this giant audience of women from, 13 to however old, who don't really have rides or worlds for themselves. And so I thought about it, and I came up with this solution of a Mamma Mia themed dark boat ride. And I chose Mamma Mia because I felt like these films that Universal Studios created were really just happy, cheerful musicals that are unlike anything else in Universal Studios Hollywood, but could also cater to these women who didn't really have anything for themselves at this theme park. And so I did a lot of research on theme parks and rides and how they are designed, and I really did not have any knowledge of what kind of theme park rides there were. I just thought roller coasters and those rides that go through a bunch of rooms. Well, it turns out they're called dark rides, and the line cues that lead to those dark rides are also equally as important as the rides themselves. And so I kind of took those two topics and broke them down to three research topics, one being line cues and cueing psychology, and then I have kind of the overall history and conceptual design of dark rides, and then I got deeper into the design of the technical specifications, like acoustics and lighting and stuff like that. So now that I've said dark ride a couple times, what exactly is a dark ride? It is a theme park classic. It's been around for years and years. It's one of the earliest theme park rides there is. And it is a ride that goes through an entirely windowless building. And that's why it's called a dark ride. But another reason why it's called a dark ride is because they were initially designed to be kind of spooky, creepy, haunted house ride-throughs almost. And with that in mind, that was like another problem for me. I'm like, how can I make this ride that is known for being a dark haunted kind of ride, and also it's in the name, dark ride, how can I make this dark of a ride into a happy, cheerful ride that reflects the films themselves? So that's what basically a dark ride is, and there's different types of dark rides. And there's one called a dark boat ride, where the ride vehicle that guests actually sit in while they go through the ride is a boat, and you're going through water. And I thought that would be perfect for my ride, so I did a lot of research on dark boat rides. And here are a couple examples of famous dark boat rides. These are both from Disneyland, actually. On the left is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and it's more of an environmental dark ride, and that means that the guests are kind of in a slow ride vehicle moving through the space that's slow enough for them to look around and see all the action and whatever's going on around them. So it's more of like you're being immersed in the world, and it's just enjoying the environment and what you're going through. Splash Mountain is a little bit different of a dark ride. It kind of tells a story of certain Disney movies, which is another type of dark ride, a story-driven dark ride. But it's also different because instead of being slow, like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, it has slow elements, but also really fast kind of thrill ride elements, and that's what makes it a flume dark ride. So over here you have the boat going through a wide expanse of water, while over here you have a small little narrow canal where the boat is propelled forward with currents. And I also included this picture because I thought it was like a good example of how a dark ride cannot look as dark. Through modern technology, lighting, special effects, sets, colors, even music, it could really lighten up the space. And so I kind of took pictures like this as my inspiration for what I wanted the interior of my ride to look like. Dark ride is also a combination of film and stage. Like I said, story-driven dark rides kind of take you through a story, and it starts off right away in the line queue. Right as you step in, you're immersed in a new world, you get background information, kind of get introduced to the characters, and as you go through the line and through the ride, it kind of works through the story, beginning, middle, and end. So this is an interesting term. It's called a weenie. Now, this was initially coined by Walt Disney in the making of his films. He noticed that stage dogs, in order to get them to do tricks, trainers would hold a hot dog, and the dogs would automatically go towards that hot dog, do the trick, and keep going. And he thought, oh, this could be applied to theme parks. We want the guests to move from one area to another. How can we get them to do that? Through a weenie. In this case, it's an architectural feature. So an iconic weenie is the Disney Castle. So as you can see, I thought this picture was great because you can see how Main Street, just the street itself and the architecture points to this castle, and you can't help but move forward towards it. And also, the lighting is completely different in the castle from the rest of the park. And so you can't help but have your eyes drawn to that specific area and want to move towards it. And same with the rest of the Disneyland. It's no matter where you are, you see the castle and you want to move towards it, and you know that when you get there, you're in the center of the park and you can find your way from then. So just like a play in a theater, dark rides have sets, and these sets are lit by theatrical and stage lighting, like for instance this light down below. One of the examples of the lights I put in my ride, it could be a spotlight, a wall wash, a special. There's several different types of lighting that you can use in your plays, and also from the plays also used in dark rides. And then you need to have acoustics to keep the guests fully immersed in this altered reality. You don't want the guests to hear what's going on in the next room, people screaming, music playing, because that will take them out of the altered reality and be like, oh, this isn't real life. This is just sort of an altered world, a new world, and this isn't real life, and I can hear what's going on next door, which you don't want. And these are some examples of acoustic ceiling tiles I used. Of course, I wanted to brighten up the space, and so I found sky ceiling tiles, and then for dark skies or interiors, I have black. And so this is my ride, Hotel Belladonna. It's split up into two parts. One is the line queue over here, and one is the ride itself. So as you can see over here on the leftmost part of the screen is the ride entrance. The guests enter right through there, and they go through 6 different rooms, kind of swerving in like that, until they get to the load and unload station right here, and then right away they enter into the tunnel and they go through 15 scenes. Now, I racked my brain for days trying to figure out which iconic songs and scenes from both movies I would want to see come to life. And I love Mamma Mia, so it was really hard for me to narrow it down. And so I initially wanted 14, but I just couldn't do 14, so I did 15. And I asked myself and my peers and family, what would you want, my mom, I asked her, what would you want to see in real life? And I narrowed it down to this list. And the scenes that didn't really make the ride, but I still wanted to be represented in the film, I put in the line queue. And so basically the guests go on the boat and they go through these 15 scenes, and they get out at the same load and unload station, nice and easy, and then they exit down there. So a lot of my research was also focused on kind of the movie sets. So I looked at a bunch of stills. I also looked at the location of where the movie was filmed, and looked at the architecture and the flowers and trees to make sure everything was authentic. So all the trees you see here are native to Greece. They are olive, fig, pine, and cypress, and of course they're fake because you need water and sunlight to make them grow. And this is a windowless building, so it did not work. But these are all fake, but realistic looking, and the finishes on the buildings are all stone and aged to really make this place look like the sets. So and I had exit corridors centralized here and over here in case of emergency and the guests need to exit. And for the ride, or the scene right here, Super Trooper and Dancing Queen boats, they're kind of stuck, so I thought, ooh, a drawbridge. And so this drops automatically, and then the guests get to exit over here. So that is basically that overall floor plan of the ride. And the part that I'm going to focus on first is the line queue. So as I researched the line queue, I saw that a lot of people really cared about social justice in terms of standing in line for long periods of time. They want to feel like if they're the first ones in, they want to be the first ones out. So in certain theme parks, when you can pay to get fast passes, guests don't think that's fair because what if they can't afford it and then they're waiting in line and they see people fly by and they're like, well, you had more money than I did. So it just doesn't really feel fair. So I found out that single queues that are just first in, first out are not only the easiest to install, inexpensive, but they're also the most socially just. So I wanted to make the line queue accessible to everyone. So I have wide turns in the line for people in wheelchairs to easily access and turn throughout the line. I wanted to be immersive from the beginning, so I have fountains, trees, outdoor furniture. So right when you walk in, you feel like, oh, I'm in Calipari, I'm on the island, and you feel like you're immersed from the beginning, right when you walk into the line queue. I have characters from the films that also makes it kind of interactive. So I have over here, can't really see it, but there's a balcony, and on it, Sophie and Sky animatronics are there, and they kind of say, welcome, we're so happy you're here. And as the guest, you're actually journalists or reporters from around the world coming to do a story on the new hottest romantic destination, which is Hotel Belladonna. And so that's where they kind of explain it there before you load onto the boats and start the ride. So it's kind of like a backstory, and you can also see some of your favorite characters. But down here, I have the passport room, which in the second movie, there is a passport booth where everyone who wants to go onto the boats to the island Calipari have to go through this guy. And so they have to give him the passport. And this guy in the film, he just looks at everyone's pictures and just makes fun of their pictures, basically. It says, well, you look better with your hair shorter, sort of thing. And so what is a fun interactive part of the ride is that guests have an option of taking a passport at the very beginning. And they hold on to this passport through the ride, the line queue, until they get to this room where they can hand it off to this animatronic figure, which actually there's a worker behind, and they kind of like open the passport and they make fun of the rides or the guests, and that's kind of just like a fun interactive part to keep you distracted while you're waiting in line, which leads me to my next point, queuing theory. Now, a big thing about line queues is that the more you're distracted or entertained, more stuff that's going on around you, the more skewed your perception of time is. So if you are distracted or entertained or just having a good time and looking all around you, you think you've actually waited in line a shorter amount of time than you actually have. And so that's what I wanted to incorporate into this line queue, is I wanted it to be immersive and interactive and fun so people are entertained and they feel like they've been in the line a less amount of time. And then I also have a wait area over here at the end of the load and unload docking station where guests can wait for their family and friends if they're still riding the ride. And then over here, I just have 8 basic guidelines for line queues where you want to be engaged, entertained, you want to feel like it's a socially just environment where when you get in, no one's cutting you and you can be the first in and first out sort of thing. So here's one of my line queue rooms, the hotel courtyard. I picked this kind of set because it is represented in both films, Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. It's just the exterior of the hotel. And this particular scene is in the second movie where it's dark outside and Sophie is singing and dancing with her mom's friends, Tanya and Rosie. And so you can see the stage is right there with the microphones, and the guests kind of get to wait around that and also look at the hotel around them. It's accessible, like I said, wide turns, immersive. The time of day is nighttime, as you can see from the paint and the acoustic ceiling tile, which is shown up here. It kind of, just gives the feeling of, oh, this is nighttime, even though it's just you're in a building, but from your environment, it feels like it's nighttime. It's realistic with native trees and plants, and I also looked at many stills of the movie, and this is kind of the overall layout of the hotel exterior, so I wanted to portray that here. Ceiling and wall fans help the guests feel comfortable while they're waiting in line, so they're not really, really hot, and then they get on the boat and they're cranky. Then I have ceiling and wall speakers to blast the Mamma Mia soundtrack while they're waiting. And then also I found another kind of interesting fact about line queues is when you have padded flooring, It helps guests' feet feel less tired while they're waiting for long periods of time. Less tired feet means less tired guests. It means that once they actually board the vehicle, they're not cranky. They're happy and excited to go. So that's why I picked padded, slip-resistant tile flooring instead of like stone, which was in a bunch of the films, just kind of like the stone exterior tile. But I thought, oh, this is a big room. People are going to be waiting in this room for a long period of time. They need to have padded flooring for sure. And then the backstory is explained, like I said. Sophie and Sky are right over here. This is kind of where the balcony is. It's kind of off screen, and that's where they kind of welcome the guests before they load onto the boats. My next scene that I wanted to talk about was Waterloo. This is a big dance number in the second film, located in Paris. In the song itself, it references Napoleon, so I thought it'd be fun if the guests really know the song to have a Napoleon painting right when you enter. This is right there. And then also to help the guests better understand where they're located, there's an Eiffel Tower in the window right off to the left there, and that kind of helps them reference where they are. There's acoustic ceiling tile to make sure that the song, the specific song Waterloo, is into this room and it doesn't really exit into the next room over here. The track is going through the middle of the scene, so the guests feel like they're immersed and actually in the scene. So there's action happening over here, and they can look around them and just enjoy the ride instead of everything happening in this dark space right over here. And then it's all in the details. So there's a coat rack, there's wine glasses and plates right in front of the people, big wine bottles over here, just big wood beams, and just really warm, inviting. And I wanted it to look like the restaurant's actually a real restaurant and being used. And then over here in this corner, properly located behind this column, is animatronic characters, young Donna and Harry dancing, and the characters get to see that right as they exit the scene. And here's just a couple furnishings. There's the retro bar stool and retro lighting that I wanted throughout the space to kind of give off the feeling like, oh, I went back. This is a flashback kind of scene. And so that's how I did that. And then this scene, the Dancing Queen bed scene, references a very iconic scene in the first movie with Donna dancing on the bed with her friends Tanya and Rosie dancing around her. As you can see. There is sunlight streaming through the windows, and how I did this is through research into theater and stage lighting. There's this lighting fixture called a special, and a special gives off the lighting effect of daylight. And so this is actually a set wall right here, and right behind the set wall, behind these set windows, are specials set up. And so they're set up in a way so it looks like daylight is streaming in through the windows. And it also lightens up the space and gives it a cheerful, happy feeling. There's chaos in the set dressing, and that's just because Donna is a crazy busy person, so there's going to be stuff thrown about her room, not really caring where everything is. And you can see it in the movie too. It's just very messy. It's just all over the place. And so I wanted to represent that in this rendering as well and in my ride. The color scheme is just bright and cheery. You got your blues and pops of red and yellow. So I wanted to show that because that is the color scheme of the movie. So of course I wanted to take that and apply it to my ride. The spotlight is on Donna and her friends, which makes her the weenie. And so the direction of the boat is even leading you towards where the main scene is happening and the main attention should be focused, and the spotlight shining down on her also makes you focus on that since everything else is not really as lit. And then also the sloped ceiling also frames in where you should look. So it kind of narrows your gaze down and points you down towards Donna and her friends. And then there's a blue door over here that leads you to the next scene, and it opens up right as you exit the scene and into the next one. And in the movies, you see a lot of blue accents, blue shutters, blue doors, and that's what I wanted to represent here. So here's just the blue wall color. And a fun detail for people who are really into the Mamma Mia movies, there's a scene where Sophie and Donna are getting ready for Sophie's wedding and they're rocking in the rocking chair. So there it is over there for people who are like, oh, I know that's that part of the movie. And then this is the ride vehicle. So you got a very large ride vehicle that holds 4 to 7 people, so big groups of people can all go together. Even if someone is in a wheelchair, there's an accessible back where you can literally roll right onto the boat from the loading and unloading station. There it is back there, so they don't have to wait for a special accessible boat. They're all accessible for everyone, so they can all ride together no matter what. The colors of the boats match the color scheme, and it's also fun for the kids to be like, oh, I want the yellow one, or oh, I want the blue one. They have that choice if they want. Details to make it look more realistic. There's just a window for the captain's cab back here, a life raft, storage on top, roofs, bars to hold on to, stuff like that, what you would see in a normal passenger boat. The wheels to attach the track are down there. There's a roof to help the guests look forward and outwards and not up to see stage lighting, because that's the last thing I want them to see. And then they, once again, get pulled out of that altered reality and realize, oh, I'm not actually in Greece. And I want them to feel like they're immersed. So I don't want them looking up at an unfinished ceiling with stage lighting and stuff like that. So, and there are the doors on the side for them to exit and enter through. And then just to conclude, I really just wanted this ride to be as immersive and nostalgic as possible, and people to really enjoy the ride that they're going through. I wanted it to be nice and slow so they can really just be propelled forward and into new rides and new scenes and have it revealed to them when the time comes, and be able to see their favorite scenes and songs from the movies, both movies, so younger girls who may have only seen the newest movie are able to be like, oh, I remember this scene. And then older women who have only maybe seen the first movie or like that one the best, they have those scenes for them as well. And yeah, I just wanted the film soundtracks to be playing throughout the entire ride and line queue. So it's just really fun for the whole family and keeps you dancing and singing the whole time. And I wanted it also to be very detailed. So every time you come back, you see something new. You can look around yourself and see like, oh, I didn't notice this before. But that's another fun part of the movie. And it makes you wanting to come back for more.
Well, the hands are up.
Very, 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 very well explained. That was like very, very good. I think you should be very proud of yourself. Like I feel like if you brought this over to Disney and like show them this, I feel like it'd be like, let's get to it. Very good.
Thank you.
I build off that. I have not really watched Mamma Mia, and I felt like I was in it, so and I knew what was happening. So that I'm sure that's what one of your goals was. So that's you really well.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So, first off, how long will it take for the people to go through the fence, or like the first part of the ride? And then how long would it take? Did you calculate that by any chance?
So the line queue, you can't really calculate that because
Okay.
it's all different depending on like hours of the day too.
Right.
Especially if it's really hot outside. Not many
Okay.
people maybe will want to be outside in a roller coaster, so it's more packed in air conditioning.
Right.
So it really just depends on the time of the day and also how many people are in the theme parks, also days of the year.
Okay.
But each scene, the length of the scene depends on how long I want the guests to be in that scene. And the boat's moving at approximately 2 feet per second. And so with 15 scenes and however long they are, the ride should last about 5.5 minutes.
Okay. And then, did you consider by any chance? I know bathrooms might not be the most thing that you usually include into like a dark room, but
Yeah.
there are. I mean, with such an enclosed area and with such like a rigged line movement for, did you consider like the transition between the first part and the boat ride, like maybe incorporating like a bathroom for guests to use in case if they spent so long in the lines and were like, you know, 'cause
Yeah.
a lot of them do go to the bathroom
Totally.
before, but sometimes there are like little kids, you can't always control them going to the
Right,
bathroom.
exactly.
And I know you're trying to get it pertaining to them, so.
Yeah, so there's plenty of exit doors throughout the ride, but this is actually a question that I had for one of my external experts.
Okay.
And in a lot of theme parks, there are bathrooms right outside the ride, and they're kind of for that specific area for guests to go through. And that's the case at Universal Studios Hollywood. People are allowed to get out of the rides and come back in at certain times if they have to go to the restroom and they can't go right at that specific moment in time in the ride. There's restrooms nearby.
And then I have one more question. So,
Yeah.
So how many people actually a couple more questions. What is the total square footage of your space?
59,000 square feet.
Okay, and then total occupancy type? Or a number?
I want to say a little less than 2,000.
Okay. Okay.
people, occupancy or occupancy type.
Occupancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's about 1,900
All right.
people, but that's also at one time, and
Right.
people will be cycling through continuously. So
Okay.
it can
That was my
vary.
next question.
Yeah. So it's always I wanted to make sure that guests can go through quickly, but also have it be kind of intimate as well.
Right.
It's not going to go anywhere. That's fine. But the boats are spaced out enough that you can be the only boat in that particular scene. So right as you go through that blue door, like in the Dancing Queen bed scene, the doors close behind you and then you're in that space. So you feel like, oh, this is the boat of the reporters and the journalists, like you're the only ones, and this is just kind of like a one-on-one Sophie and Sky giving you the tour.
Okay.
And so they're spaced out about, I want to say 45-second dispatch time, enough. So no matter how big the scene is, you are still the only ones in there, and it's intimate, but then also going fast enough for a lot of people to cycle through.
Awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
I don't know, you probably thought of this, but like, since you have a lot of different like waiting rooms, is there a way to like skip that if the line is like not that long, or do you have to like go through the entire thing?
You have to unfortunately go through the entire thing since it is a single file line. But yeah, so for the line queue, that is a good question, but you do have to go through the entire thing. Yes.
I just want to say that you paid so much attention to like the littlest details, and it was just amazing how you like captured the movie and the buildings and like all the little details. It was just awesome. So, like the rocking chair. I just love that.
Thank you.
Wow, where to start? Actually, the beginning honestly felt a little on the architectural engineering aspect of it. And so I was waiting for the zhuzh.
Yeah.
So like, okay, there's a lot of design here.
Yeah.
And actually was growing concerned the amount of time that you spent on the Q floor plan. Because as soon as you said, well, then around the side, we've got the facades and the scene, it's like, I want to see it. And then you got there.
Yeah.
So that was my own struggle and just wanting to get to the design part. And after seeing this whole thing, you struck such a really good balance between, and you and I actually talked about this a little bit, the amount of detail that goes in. You know, there's 15 projects here, plus a queue, plus. So the logistic challenge that you were faced with, as well as you're trying to put enough stuff that we've seen in a movie, so that's replication. So the chair, these little details that come from the movie, well, you could say, well, how creative is that? Because you're just copying something that's already there, versus now where do you show up as a designer? So that and you did that gorgeously. I mean, your execution, obviously the renderings are fantastic, but I think after seeing this whole thing, because it could go real easy to, well, I'm just copying scenes from the movie, but there's plenty of you that showed up in this, and your attention to detail. We're going to make the trees the same. We've got the facade. This is the the city scene and stuff. So I'm blown away. I mean, it's fantastic, and I love your boat.
I should click off that. I don't like it as much. There we go.
No, it's really good. Do you want to do like set design?
I
Did you do
enjoy
set
it.
design for like the film festival?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good too.
Yeah. No, I like working with something that's definite and doesn't really, like, consistent and doesn't really change all that much, and something to revert back to for sure.
It was really, really good.
Proud of you.
So we don't really have a whole lot of time, so I can't say a whole awful lot, but to kind of piggyback onto what Tom said, I think that anticipation in the beginning kind of reminded me of going through your queue line, of getting all the information first and then being wowed at the end. So you kind of took us on a journey, which I thought was pretty spectacular in that aspect. I also love the use of the Easter eggs that you did, like Napoleon and the rocking chair and things like that, because those are the kind of things that true fans will find endearing and special. And looking at all your research and stuff that you did, I'm just like speechless at what you did with this. So good job, girl.
Thank
Yeah.
you.